Welcome, everybody. People are coming in. Lots of people. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. It's great to have so many people interested in meditation and cultivating a calm inner state, because we really need that right now on the planet, don't we? Yes. So every single one of you is doing your part, and I really appreciate that. And please know that when you do your individual, when you contribute individually to cultivating a calm inner state, you impact everybody in your life and people even beyond who you're familiar with. So it's a really beautiful gift that you're giving to the planet. And I also have a dear friend of mine she's been sort of a meditation partner for over 30 years. And she's older than I am. She's sort of a mentor. And she says to me, never underestimate the power of your silence your energy, this cultivated, calm energy, to impact the whole world. And I really believe that's true, because we are energy. All of us are. And our energy impacts far more than, what we just have around us or see around us. So anyway, welcome. And there we go. We've got lots of people here. So a couple of things right up front. What I'd love to do is let me just say this. You want to put it on speaker view so that you see me and hear me speaking, because I am going to ask for some people right up front in the beginning of today's talk to just share any successes that they've experienced if you were here for the last class and you did the homework and you committed to doing 5 minutes a day and tracking it. I'm curious, this is a chance for you to brag a little bit about how well you've done with that and what you've noticed as a result of that, number one. So I'm going to have people raising their hands. And I know when you raise hands, it reorients the gallery. So you want to keep it on speaker view if you want to see me. If not, I'm going to disappear when it starts reorienting the gallery. I have scheduled another meeting for all of us in case you're interested on February 16th. So it's going to be 2 weeks from today, 4:00 p.m. Eastern, same time. I saw somebody in here from Australia. Thank you so much for being with us. I think it's pretty early where you are. So that will be on February 16th, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And so let's hello from Greece. Wow, thank you. I have a husband who's Greek, and I was just trying to remember how to say hello in Greece, and I can't tell you. I can say avro lemonov soup, which is my favorite Greek soup, but everything else just went right out the window. Anyway, yes, welcome everybody. So let's start by hearing from a couple of people who may have been here 2 weeks ago or listened to the recording and took on the homework and decided that they were going to meditate every day for a minimum of 5 minutes. Let's hear how you did and what it was like. Carol Perry, let's start with you. There you go. I don't see you, but I see your C. Carol, are you there? There you go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
I'm trying to start my video. I'm on a little island off an island, so my internet's not so good. That's why I turn into a C from time to time.
Okay. Whereabouts? What side of Ireland? Where are you?
No, I'm on Quadra Island on the west coast of Canada.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. So how did you?
I did every day except 2.
Okay.
And I just totally forgot. I did not make any notes, which I think I should have, because some of them were much more solid meditations than others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is the real benefit of tracking, of just in a little book next to your bed, putting an M with a check mark, because the brain it helps to create something called automaticity. The brain begins to, and your being begins to just remember when you go to bed, oh, wait a second, there's that little book. Oh, I forgot to meditate, in which case you can do your 5 minutes just before you go to sleep. So, but listen, you did every day but 2 days. That's awesome. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's great. You're awesome. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Yeah, you're welcome. Chitra, hi.
Hi, Cheryl. Love you very much.
I love you very much too. It's great to see you.
I've been a follower of you for many, many years. So I just want to tell everyone that I've been doing this for a long time. And I can tell you that the quantity of thoughts decreases and the quality of thoughts improves. And that is something that I have noticed. And I'm so happy that you're doing this and you're building a whole community. I find myself not reacting as much. I can take a little deep breath, even when very, very difficult or challenging situations come. So I would encourage everybody, like as you are doing, to try it out and not get disheartened. If the mind doesn't go blank. I just think that it's the quality of thoughts that improves as well. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Chitra, I love that. And I hope everybody, let's just underscore that. The quantity of the thoughts decreases. That's really powerful. And then the quality of the thoughts increases. Those are two really big deal benefits. And I love that, you've got the evidence to prove it. You've been practicing for a while. And when you've practiced for a while, you begin to really build a level of self-trust that lets you know you can face any circumstance. That's a big deal. Remember, I think I said in the first class, we all bother ourselves with our thoughts. We actually harass ourselves. We abuse ourselves. We are just mean to ourselves with our thinking a lot of time. And one of the things you'll notice as you start to meditate is you'll start to notice the quality of your thoughts, and you'll notice a lot of the quality isn't that great. How many people have noticed that? Just raise your physical hand. Yes. You noticed it though. And that's the thing that we're trying to really emphasize here. You are not your thoughts. You are the noticer of your thoughts. And that noticer is a high being. That's the being that we're trying to cultivate a relationship with, because that being will show up in the world in the most beautiful way. So thank you, Chitra. I'm really glad that you shared that. Dawn, let's go to you. Hey, Dawn. We just need you to unmute yourself. There we go. Hi.
There we go. Hi. It's nice to actually see you and hear that lovely voice.
Oh,
I have Wayne Dyer has been a mentor for me for many, many years. And I was a guest of his 2 years before he transcended. And so I've been meditating for quite a while and try to encourage clients to also do it because, I'm a life through service person. And what I just wanted to say to people is keep doing it. Don't get discouraged, because what you're going to find is you're going to be calmer and you're going to relax. You're just going to be in a more relaxed state. And that energy transcends to everybody else around you. Because if they scan your brain before you start a meditation practice and you meditate for 20 minutes a day and your brain is rescanned after 56 days, your brain changes. The gray matter in your brain actually changes. This is how powerful it is. So it's an honor to be with all of you, and just keep doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dawn.
I
appreciate what a beautiful voice you have too. And
I'm pretty good about myself.
we want to
Cheryl Richardson.
We want to mute whoever is, there we go. Dawn, really important what you said also. This is not an easy task, as many of you have probably already noticed. It's really uncomfortable sitting quietly with your thoughts, isn't it? But you don't want to give up. You want to keep at it, keep going, keep practicing. It will get easier. A majority of over time, a majority of the time will get easier. There are some times where I will sit down to meditate, as I've said before, and it's like the suckiest experience I've ever had. but I keep showing up, and you want to keep showing up because it will make a huge difference. So thank you, Dawn. And today we're going to talk about the toolkit that we're building that's going to make it easier for you to keep showing up and keep practicing. Amy, we'll hear from a couple more people and then we'll move on. Amy, how about you? How'd you do?
Hi, everyone. Actually, for me, it was when you suggested we take those breaths during a stressful situation. I'm going through a lot of health issues right now and appointments and different procedures. And I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart, because just taking those breaths, that 3 in and 4 out, whatever, it got me through a lot of different things that I had to go through these past 2 weeks. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. That's really great. When in doubt, people breathe in through the nose and extend the exhale. So breathe out through the nose more slowly. You can't help but relax. The parasympathetic nervous system gets engaged and we just start to calm down. So I'm so glad that was helpful to you, Amy. Thank you. And, I'm going to make a little note. I'm going to add you to my prayer book. I have a beautiful red prayer book that I put people in, and I am putting Vibrant Health next to your name.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.
You.
You're very welcome, sweetheart. All right, Janet, what about you? Look at that smile. Hi.
Oops. Hi, Cheryl. God, thank you for everything. I don't know if you remember this. I met you at the Today Show, and you signed a copy of your book for me and my friend who had seen you.
Oh my God, I remember exactly who you are. Hi.
So we've been following you for a long time, and I'm so grateful to be here. And I did the meditation every day but one day.
Oh.
And what I kept hearing you say for this past 2 weeks is when you talked about you're getting on the crazy train.
Yes.
And that was really useful. Like I walk outside my hallway and it really annoys me that my neighbors leave their shoes, umbrellas, even their socks. And it's against the house rules and fire department. I said, I could get on this crazy train about their shoes, or I could just take a few deep breaths. And I completely forgot about their shoes. So
okay. This is Janet. It's funny. I was just thinking about you the other day. It's so funny you're here.
Really?
Yes, I was. You were so lovely to me that day. This is exactly what we're talking about. Michael Singer would call something like that low-hanging fruit, right? Dealing with the weather, dealing with, simple little annoyances. Something breaks in your house, or, somebody spills something, or your partner leaves their socks someplace or whatever. Those are the times where we can practice cultivating a calm inner state, taking those breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. You'll hear me repeating this a lot, everybody, because I really want to get the software in the brain, upgrade the software, doing things like that. And then what you said is so important, Janet, and then you forgot all about it. That's what happens. Honestly, 99% of what we worry about is not worthy of our worry. And if we just let it alone, it would take care of itself, either because it would leave our mind or it would get handled. 99%, maybe even 99.9%. So why not give it a shot and see what happens, right? And I'm so glad you did. That's great. Thanks, Janet, and lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Barbara, how about you? There we go.
Hello. I have been in love with you since your first book.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to share, because I am a meditation teacher, and so it's wonderful to be on the other side to be able to receive. And I wanted to share with everyone, because until December, I did a daily online meditation practice every day for like 3 years and 3 months and some change. And so I wanted to share with everyone, number one, it's just practice. All meditation is practice. Anything we practice, we get a little stronger at. And one of my favorite things I heard someone say is meditation is mental hygiene. So we all brushed our teeth this morning, right? Yeah. Hopefully we washed our face. So when we learn to think of it as something we want to do, because we use our brain more than anything else in the world. So even as you say, if we just spend 2 minutes just putting our hand to our heart and taking some breaths, breathing in and breathing out, it is such a powerful practice. So I just wanted to encourage anyone that's out there, keep doing it. It's just practice, and that's it. Just keep doing it. Keep practicing. Don't beat yourself up every time you sit, even as a meditator for 20 something years. I love getting notices about the grocery list, because I get a lot of those in my meditation. So it's like, oh, I need to get bananas. Thank you. Just be grateful for whatever comes up. So I just wanted to share that. And thank you for having this beautiful space for people to come, Cheryl.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, Barbara. And, it's funny, today I was meditating before the class, so probably like an hour and a half ago. And I just set a little alarm for 10 minutes and I got quiet. And about 2 minutes into the meditation, I suddenly started to get like an outline of what I wanted to do on the call. And I went, okay, I stopped, I jotted it all down. Then I went back and continued, because sometimes you'll find as you practice, you actually will start to get valuable information, helpful information, good reminders, because
divine downloads, divine downloads, take them.
I was going to say any day. Thank you, Barbara. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Here's what I'd like to do, because this is a meditation class. I'm going to first ask all of you to just close your eyes for a moment and just take don't even take a few breaths. Just, obviously keep breathing, but just close your eyes for a moment. And I just want you to tune in and rate your energy on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being I feel peaceful and calm, and 10 being I feel, whatever it might be for you, really revved up, anxious, whatever it might be. Just notice your energy level on a scale from 1 to 10. And when you have a number, you can open your eyes and smile. And you might even want to jot that number down. Now, my intention for these classes is to help you build a very simple toolkit or a toolbox that has within it little techniques you can use when you want to help calm your mind, while you're meditating. So last week we talked about the fact that just closing your eyes begins to create alpha waves. So it starts to slow the body down just by the fact that you've closed your eyes. We talked about the value of breathing in through the nose and then out through the nose. As just a technique. There's no right or wrong way, but as a technique of slowing the breathing down. We tend to gasp with our mouths, so breathing through the nose kind of slows things down, and extending the exhale. So we practice breathing in through the nose, maybe on a count of 3, breathing out through the nose for a count of 4 or 6, whatever works for you. We also talked about making that a game. Remember, I said sometimes I'll make it a game with myself where I will focus on how long can I exhale, like how many counts, so that suddenly by doing that, I'm no longer focusing on my busy mind. I'm actually coming into the moment and focusing on my breath. So it's just a fun little game that you can play. But those were the things that we talked about last time. And I also mentioned at the end, in regards to, I think, in answer to someone's question, that sometimes you can use a mantra or a word. When I first began meditating, probably for the first 6 or 8 months, I think I used the word peace. And every time I was meditating and my mind got busy, I would either say the word peace to myself, or I would imagine spelling it in the air in front of me so that I would see the word, just as a way to bring my attention back in. It was the state that I wanted to cultivate, which is why I went ahead and focused on that word. So there may be a word that you want to focus on. Eventually, I didn't need the word anymore. I could just really focus on my breathing. And eventually I began to notice, and Chitra, I bet you know this too, and those of you that teach meditation, eventually you get a sense of a shift in consciousness that happens where you can feel yourself going inside, and you can kind of like surrender to that feeling, and suddenly you're just, I don't know, this is the way I'm explaining it, but suddenly, you're quiet within yourself. And that's the other thing I began to look for over time. So we used those practices to begin with. And I thought maybe what we could do is let's start with a 5-minute meditation. Once again, using those tools from the last time, closing your eyes, breathing through your nose, extending your exhale, focusing on a word if you want to. If not, no big deal, or mantra or phrase. But let's just get comfortable. And remember this, if you notice how busy your mind is, you're a success. Like just noticing your thinking means you have separated yourself from your mind. The high being is noticing. Remember, I talked about the movie screen or the loudspeaker, however it appears to you, your mind. Just breathing and using the breath through the nose with the eyes closed, just allowing yourself to get quiet. Let's just do that for 5 minutes. I'm going to set an alarm, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to talk about some new tools that you can add to your toolkit this week. So get comfortable, whatever feels comfortable to you, whatever position. You can lay down, you can sit down, you can lay on the floor. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do is fine. And as we begin, just start by taking some slow breaths in through your nose. And remember, we come to the present moment when we tune into our senses. We also did this last week. Feel your body in space. Your feet on the floor. Your body in the chair. Notice the sounds around you. Notice if there are any scents. Can you smell anything? Welcome to this moment. You're doing so well. Just let your mind do what the mind does. Lean away from your thinking mind. You are a beautiful meditator. How great is that? Great job, everybody. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and smile. Smiling is also really good for the soul. Using your physical hands, how many of you are noticing that it's getting easier to meditate? To even just sit for the 5 minutes. Already you've noticed that. How awesome is that? It's great. That's great. Beautiful. All right. So we talked about the tools that we're already using. We just had a chance to practice them. And today there's two new tools that I want to share with you. The first one comes from, I was reading a book that just came out recently called Resume by Susan Pierce Thompson and Everett Considine. It's a book about weight loss, and it's actually a book about resuming when you've lost weight and then gained weight. And Everett is someone that I know and really love. Nicole, I see you know Everett as well. I really love him and his work, and he's been very helpful to me. And so I was reading the book. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of very different, interesting information in the book about taking care of one's body. And at one point, Susan was talking about, Susan and Everett, I guess, were talking about the importance of meditation. And she mentioned that a mentor of hers had recommended that all she needed to do was focus on stillness, on being still, as a technique for meditating. And I thought, oh, well, that sounds kind of simple, right? Just focus on being still. So I tried it in my next meditation because I'm always interested in trying new things. And I knew that I was going to be with all of you and I want to be able to share some ideas. And I mean, I always am, I'm my biggest experiment, myself and my life. And so I tried it, and I tried it again. I tried it a few times, and it's very interesting to notice how unstill we can be when we're meditating, even though we think we're being still. Sometimes I noticed that my hands were fidgeting a little bit. I definitely noticed my tongue moving around, like moving my mouth. And so I found that just taking a meditation and really focusing in on stillness, like how still can I keep my body? Or where am I not being still in my body? So essentially, we're redirecting the attention from the thoughts that distract us, that annoy us, that bother us. We're redirecting our attention from the thoughts to stillness, to being quiet, to allowing the body to truly stop. So, of course, yes, as you're breathing, your body's going to be moving as you breathe. But you can keep the rest of your body still. Lisa, can you do me a favor and just grab the link for Resume and put it in the chat box so people have it? I saw someone just asked for it. So we'll put that in the chat box for you. So I thought what we could do is the book is called Resume. You'll see it in the chat box in just a few minutes. And for those of you, let's refrain from using the chat box right now so that you can actually be here with me and with everybody here. And we'll go ahead and make sure you get that resource. Lisa will pay attention anytime I mention a book. She's going to put it in the chat box for you. So I thought what we could do is practice a stillness meditation. Just practice for 5 minutes, noticing whether or not we're still, just kind of scanning your body and noticing what parts, I just turned British for a moment there. What parts of your body, that's about as good as I can do. What parts of the body are still, what parts are not still, and what can we do to just calm ourselves and come back into this moment? So let's practice this tool, shall we? We'll do another 5 minutes together. It is a meditation class after all, so we might as well do that. So once again, let's get quiet and comfortable wherever you are. I'm going to set the clock. And I want you to just breathe through your nose, like we've talked about. Come home to yourself. That's what we're doing. Come home and connect with this beautiful high being that you are. And as you do, just begin to notice where you need to stop moving. If your mind gets busy, just return to the practice of being still. Focus on that. You are becoming a master meditator. Just keep returning to the stillness. You got this. You're doing great. All right, welcome back. It's so funny when I'm doing this, I have to keep stopping myself to look at the clock because I can feel that I'm just going to disappear and forget that I'm here with all of you. Anybody else notice that? You feel like you could just kind of get lost in it? Yeah, that's good. That's great. So how many of you that was that helpful in terms of focusing on stillness? Like, just how many of you notice that your body's moving and you don't even know it? Raise your physical hands. Yeah. Yes. 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 Okay. So you can see it's kind of a great way to redirect your attention, right? To come back to the moment, come back to the present moment, be where you are. Remember, when you stop and notice the stillness that is or is not there, you're connected to the noticer, right? The you that you really are. You're not your thinking mind. You're the one who's witnessing the thinking. You're the one who's decided that you're going to actually join the class, sit here, close your eyes. Now notice, take a moment, close your eyes for just a second, and let's tune back into your energy level on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being, I feel peaceful and calm, and 10 being, I want to jump out of my skin. And just notice where you land on a scale from 1 to 10. And when you have a number, you can open your eyes and smile and write that number down. And how many of you noticed that the number is going down? You're getting more and more relaxed. Great. Please remember this. It works. This is a powerful practice. And you don't need to be in a meditation class for it to work. It can work in everyday life. Ideally, the direction we're moving in is to go from meditation, meditation quietly sitting in stillness by ourselves, to bringing it into the world in everyday life, right? Noticing myself. As Janet was saying, she walked outside her apartment. She saw, into the hallway. She saw the shoes and the socks, and she noticed that she was about to get on the crazy train. So the wise being noticed, oh, I'm about to step on the crazy train. That's a beautiful example of meditation in everyday life, right? Witness consciousness in everyday life. When we learn to witness our behavior, we tend to act less like idiots, right? Because we notice, oh, I'm about to act like an idiot. Let me take a breath first. So if you act like an idiot, even so, it's still progress, people, because you noticed before you did it. And as long as you keep practicing, you'll find it will get better and better. And before you know it, you won't step into idiot zone either. You'll actually do something different. And you might even forget about what it was you were upset about. Yes, Diane, do you have a question? I see your hand raised. I'm asking you to unmute.
Oh,
there you go.
No, I just was typing in that when I meditate, I say, I am a child of God. And then I scan my body and see what needs to be healing. And it actually brought my blood pressure down.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I do the meditating, and I have my own little my own little timer. It really has worked. Good. I get it done in the morning after watching weather.
That's great. Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you. Rochelle, hi. Do you have a question? Where are you? There we are.
Hi, I'm brand new. Oh, I'm starstruck because I've been following you for
Oh,
so
honey,
long.
it's just me. But thank
Hi,
you.
nice to make your acquaintance
Nice
and
to
join the
meet you.
group. Do you do this every week?
Well, this is the second time I've done it, but it looks like it's going to be every other week until something comes up and I can't do it. But yeah.
Every other week at 1. Okay. So my question is, I'm looking at the resume information.
Yeah.
And does this help with PTSD?
Meditation?
Well, like for instance, they're talking about the book. And
yeah. So the book is targeted to people who want to get healthy, that maybe have lost weight, gained it, and want to resume getting back on track in a healthy way. There's a lot of really good information about cultivating good habits in that book that I'd recommend. But I do want to say this, that yes, meditating absolutely helps with PTSD. I also always recommend Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's one of the best books on trauma and PTSD. It's like a great manual. So Lisa will also put that in the chat box. You can even listen to it on audio. Sometimes I recommend that for people listening to it on audio. But I also want to say, Rochelle, thank you for your question. I want to say that what I wanted to say just went right out of my head. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get it back. Oh, yes. One of the things I liked that Susan said in Resume that I think speaks to a broader issue is meditation helps us with any impulsive reaction or response. So in her case, in her book, she's talking about meditation as a way to keep us in a balanced state so that we don't tend to get triggered and then run to the refrigerator to eat. Makes perfect sense. And she says in the book that to her, meditation is the fundamental, most important practice. I would agree with her wholeheartedly, because we're teaching ourselves to come back to the moment and self-regulate. That's really what we're doing. Meditation is a powerful form of self-regulation. And so when we learn to self-regulate, what Janet said is a great example of that. If Janet didn't self-regulate by stopping and taking some breaths, and instead she could have gone out and like banged on the neighbor's door, right? She could have like sat at her computer and typed out an angry letter to the board or whatever. That would be dysregulation. Self-regulation, which is what meditation teaches us, is to take a deep breath, come back to the moment, and let me just get present before I act. Because so many of us, especially coming out of 2 years of trauma with the pandemic, everybody's been traumatized by it. Whether you think you've been or not, you've been traumatized by it. So what do we see? We see a lot of reactive people. We see a lot of righteous people. We see a lot of impatient people. I don't know about all of you, but I notice I have very little patience. And I'm embarrassed to admit that, but it's true. I drop something and I get angry at the thing that dropped. I'm like, what is wrong here, girl? And some of it is just the trauma that we've all experienced in many different ways. And so collectively, there's a lot of angsting energy. Meditation allows us to self-regulate. You know, I wrote a blog way back when we first went into lockdown about 2 women fighting in a grocery store over paper towels or toilet paper, like children. It's dysregulation is a regressed state. What that means is you got your buttons pushed. You're no longer an adult. You're now a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old or whatever age some wounding happened. And suddenly you're in an adult body and you look like you're an adult, but you're acting like a 5-year-old, which is why these 2 women were hitting each other with toilet paper. That's called dysregulated. So meditation helps us to self-regulate. And when we learn to self-regulate, we actually think about the powerful contribution we make to our families, our loved ones, our coworkers, everybody in our lives when we learn to regulate, to regulate our own state. It's a gift to everybody. Okay. So, Jean, do you have a question? There we are. There you go. Hi, Jean.
Hi. I love this. Thank you. I haven't been able to meditate without going to sleep until now, and I love it. But what I want to know is there a way to really release things and not bring them up again? That's my big thing.
Yes. So it's a really good question, Jean, and thank you for it. I'll address it right now for you. And that is, I think I said at the end of the class the last time that the next step beyond meditation is noticing. Let me see how I want to say this. I'm going to try and do it simply. You know, all of us have stored inside of us experiences that we've had our whole lives, positive and negative experiences, right? Let's say painful and joyful experiences and the whole gamut around, right? And a lot of what we come up against, particularly around negative experiences, we store inside because they're so painful. We don't know how to deal with them. We don't want to deal with them. And so it's very common, Jean, that when we start to meditate, those experiences begin to come up. They start to rise. Remember in the last class, I talked about rise and release. So the next level that we'll probably get to at some point here is learning to just allow the fearful thoughts, the uncomfortable thoughts, whatever they are, to just rise and release. Now, what I've found, Jean, as I do that, I want to leave my heart open. I want to just allow whatever comes up to be released. And interestingly enough, I now have taken that into my daily life so that when all of a sudden I think of something that bothers me or I get my buttons pushed, I just say to myself, rise and release. Let it rise and release. But for right now, what I want you to know, Jean, is some of those experiences, a lot of them, are really painful. So when they rise up, it's like we release a piece of them, and there may be more to be released. So it may rise up again. And when that happens to me during a meditation, when I remember something painful that happened, or if something embarrassing that I did, or whatever it might be, I just once again say to myself, oh, there must be more to let go of. There must be more to let go of. Like a loving mother, I say to myself, sweetheart, there's more to let go of. Let it rise and release. So we don't want to hang on to it, right? We don't want to, so many of us, we either stuff it down, which is hanging on to it, or we grab it by the throat and analyze it to death because the mind wants you to think that if you just keep thinking about it, you'll figure it out. That never works, people. Never. It's a joke. So instead, we want to just let it rise. And of course, in order to be responsible and respectful, if you've had trauma in your past and that keeps coming up and it's overwhelming to you, you should get support. You should get support from a professional therapist skilled in dealing with trauma so that you have the safety that you need and the setting, a safe setting that you need to be able to allow it to come up and release. And there's lots of therapeutic techniques for that. EMDR, eye movement therapy, tapping. But I'm, as many of you who have followed me for years know, I'm a huge fan of therapy, good therapy. And I've had a therapist off and on since I was 19, a lot of years. That's like 40 years. And I'm really grateful for that. I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have written the books I've written or done the teaching I've done had I not been in the company of really wonderful therapists and mentors. So I hope that's helpful, Jean. I'm noticing the time and I want to give you the second tool that I mentioned. Okay. So this tool comes from my friend Joseph. Now, Joseph used to be the general manager of Miraval in Tucson, Arizona 20 years ago. And he was the one that arranged for me to start leading retreats there. And Joseph is a yoga master, and he's from Brooklyn. So he talks like a Brooklyn boy, and he does yoga like nobody's business. And I used to have him do yoga in the hood as part of my retreats. I'd invite him to come and do that, and he was awesome at it. The other day I was talking to him, and we were talking about meditation. It's important to him as well. And he said to me, you know what I do that's really helpful? And I'm gonna see if I can do it with you all right now in this moment. Here's what I want you to do. Close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to think about the next thought you're going to think. If you had to tell me the next thought you're going to think, what will it be? Look for that next thought. Okay, you can open your eyes. Did you notice what happens? When you really focus on what is it I'm going to think next, everything stops. How many of you noticed that? Just raise your physical hand. Did you notice it? Yeah. So the moment, it reminds me of what Eckhart Tolle said in The Power of Now. He said, you know, in meditation, be like a cat staring at a mouse hole, waiting for that mouse to come out. Like that's what it means to be in the moment. If you focus on staring, if you focus on what's the next thought I'm going to think, it brings you right back into the present moment. Because you can't think of the next thought you're going to think. You can intend for the next thought that you're going to think. I can decide the next thought I'm going to think is, I love you, Cheryl. But that's an intention. But if you wait to notice what's the mind going to think next, you bring yourself right back into the present moment. So I'd like for you to try that as well over the next 2 weeks as part of your homework. You can add to your toolkit the closing of the eyes, the breathing through the nose, the extending the exhale, using a mantra or a word or phrase, and then stillness, practicing being still. You can just choose any of these tools. Eventually, you'll find one that works for you over the long term until it doesn't, and you'll pick something else. But also, I want you to practice focusing on and by the way, I use a combination of these. When I'm meditating, if my mind is really busy, I'll start by focusing on the breath, in and out, in and out. And then if all of a sudden my mind grabs a hold of something, stillness, be still. No, don't move your tongue, sweetheart. Be still. And if that doesn't work, it's like, I wonder what the next thought I'm going to think is. Let me focus on my next thought. And the minute I do that, I'm back in the moment. So that's the idea here, is to be able to give yourself different options. So over the next 2 weeks, let's continue 5 minutes. If you want to advance your training, you can do 5 minutes twice a day. Maybe once in the morning, once before you go to bed, but you don't have to. I want you to build on success. So I want to make this easy, and I want to encourage you to keep practicing. So the moment it feels like homework that's too hard, cut back. Go back to the original 5 minutes a day. And again, I'm going to encourage you to take a little notebook and a pen and just put a little M with a check mark next to it. And if you do it twice, you put an M with a check mark and then 2X for 2 times. And tracking it will make a big difference. Okay? So before we wrap up, we have a few minutes. So I wondered if there were any questions. I can look, I guess, 5 minutes, Ellen, is the minimum time. I can look through the chat box here. Let's see. So yes, Judith and Chuck, I see you. Hold on 1 second here. Yes. If you just need to unmute yourself. There you go. Hi.
Thank you. My name is Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
And this is my first time experiencing you. Although
How'd I do, Chuck?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Judith has told me that it might be worthwhile for me and I might like it. And she was correct. But I have one question about meditation.
Yeah.
And that is it okay to pick a topic to meditate about? And so I have done that in the past. When I was a child, I used to focus on the pine trees in my backyard, because every pine tree has a gazillion little needles on it. Nice. And if you took the time to count them, you would just hypnotize yourself.
Yes.
So I have not done that, but I realized it.
So Chuck, first of all, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you. And Judith, thank you for encouraging him. That's awesome. I think staring out the window at pine trees is a beautiful way to meditate. If that's what works for you, if you want to count the needles, eventually you might even close your eyes and see the pine tree in your mind and count the needles in your mind. So doing something like that is a great way to focus the mind in. And if it's going to get you to sit quietly for 5 minutes, I'm all for it. If I were going to sit and contemplate the state of the world, let's say, that would not be meditating, people. That'd probably be a nightmare, because the mind tends to focus, then we're focused on thoughts. But if the practice is about focusing on stillness and quietness, I think, look at Thich Nhat Hanh, who talked about walking meditations. That beautiful soul would go out and just feeling your feet as they hit the ground, or being present. Sometimes I'll go out. My friend Beth and I, last night, we did a night hike in the middle of the woods with headlamps. It was lightly snowing, and we stopped in the middle of the woods. Nobody was around, just to get quiet and listen. And we do that every now and then. And it's the most beautiful experience. I think Beth's here somewhere. Hi, Beth, if you're here. So doing something like that is perfectly fine. Absolutely. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks very much for your question. And I'm glad you're here. Anybody else have a question? Well, let me go to the chat box first. What are the ground rules for sharing personal information on this session? You can share whatever you want, and but just bear in mind this is being recorded, and it's being shared with people. So you want to have good boundaries around that. And there's a raise your hand button at the bottom here for anybody. Ellen, let's go to you. Hi, Ellen. Welcome. You're muted. I need you to unmute. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So one quick question, last question, basic question that I have is it better to meditate in the morning, right when you're in bed and you've just woken up, or is it better to kind of go walk the dogs, then come home and meditate? What's the best time?
It's best to meditate when you meditate.
Perfect answer. Okay,
it really is. It really is. So I think it's different for everybody. I will say this, one of the things that I liked in Susan's book also in Resume is she talks about something that James Clear talks about, habit stacks, stacking certain habits. So I know in the morning, meditation is part of my daily habits, but I also very often meditate at night before I go to bed. And sometimes if my buttons get pushed during the day, I will sit my butt in a chair, set an alarm for 10 minutes and meditate then as well. So play around with it, Ellen, and see what works for you. Try it before you walk the dogs. Try it after you walk the dogs. I tried it before I fed my cats. That's never going to happen, people. ever going to happen, because my two little monsters are like all over me, Wednesday's squawking up a storm. So, just play with it, try and see what happens. And you'll find a time, but remember this, if you find a time that you want to meditate and then you're not able to do it, don't let that stop you from finding another time during the day. Most of us need reminders, which is why I like the idea of including it in your habits. A habit stack is when you're doing one thing and it leads to the next, and it leads. I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I put moisturizer on, I feed the cats, I scoop the box. Like, then the mind doesn't have to think about it. It just becomes automatic. And you want meditation to become a part of that at some point as well.
So each meditation, whether in the morning or in the evening, would have the same focus, which would be nothing, right?
It's just being with yourself and noticing, witnessing your thinking mind, and practicing some of the tools that we talked about here.
Great. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Liz will sneak you in before we finish if it's a quick question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just wondering how meditation can help with the dreams that I have, and not necessarily dreams. I just find that as soon as my head hits the pillow, all the worries and concerns that are going on just come flooding in. I mean, I can push them away throughout my day. That's easy enough. But as soon as you get into bed, wham, there they are.
You know, what I would say to you, Liz, if that's the case, there's this habit of you know, Joe Dispenza talks about this. I love Joe's work too, where there are certain patterns. The body becomes entrained. So this is a longer conversation, so I'm going to do the quick version, Liz. It may be that there's this neural pathway that's been formed for you where the minute you hit the bed, the negativity starts. I would recommend something like Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer, and start by listening to guided meditation so you can retrain your body to know that when it lays down on the bed, it's going to now be listening to calming information, which is going to make it difficult for it to think about negative things. And you'll find very, very quickly that you've retrained your body. And you know what else you can do, Liz? Sleep on the opposite side of the bed. Believe it or not, our bodies get trained. I mean, we could do a whole class just about that. So if you sleep on the other side of the bed, set yourself up on the other side of the bed, the body's going to get disrupted, and then your thinking's going to get disrupted, hopefully in a good way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. All right, everybody. A couple of things. I know somebody asked me too if I was going back to Miraval. I don't have any plans, but I do have, we did just announce the Self-Care by the Sea retreat at the end of April. If you haven't seen it, you can find that online. We're going to do some cold plunging if you're up for it. If not, no big deal. We're going to do a night walk so that you can experience Mother Nature in the dark, which is beautiful. We'll have headlamps. And there's going to be a lot of inner journeying as well. So you can find that at my website, CherylRichardson.com. And then please make a note, February 16th, 4 p.m., we're going to meet here again. You'll get, if you've already registered, you're going to automatically get the link. You don't have to register again. And I will look forward to seeing you then. But remember, do the homework. Practicing makes calm. Practicing makes a beautiful, calm state. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with me. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.